Hi and good evening, everyone. My name is Albert, and welcome to Vlogs About Nothing. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your night to join me. I really appreciate it. I am, as always, happily doing nothing, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So, let's try to stop make me do stuff. Like I'm good. I'm set right what I'm doing. I'm very happy, but I guess it is time to do some stuff. It's happy. I'm happy to report that we finally reached the 800 video threshold. And, like, I understand that my own sort of public self setting all these goals and making all these promises, it comes with the actual responsibility of following through. And just because I was inspired, or I am inspired rather, by a recent conversation with the younger brother of mine. If you guys didn't already know, I'm the oldest of five, and while I have a very tumultuous relationship with my parents, especially now, I just have never felt more rebellious. I just feel like there's some things in my life that, if they're ever going to be addressed, need to be addressed, and they need to be done sooner than later. So that's all I'm saying about that. Not to say that I don't love my parents, because I definitely do. I just have some problems with them, and that's kind of like also the topic of tonight's video. And I want to sort of bring it all in how sibling relationships and the development of them throughout our life, and how they can be beneficial, and moreover how the impact of the idea that a nuclear family can be successful continues to have the greatest impact, I'd say, on all of the billions of people around the world to this day. And just to kind of get that out of the way, I think it's important to understand that change really can only come from within. I've said this, I've advocated for this for a long time. There's a fine line between, treason, absolute January 6th type stuff, to coup type stuff, corrupt type stuff. I'm not about that. What I am about is meaningful change, because the only people that can make that happen are like you and me. You feel me? That's it. Like, that's the reality of the situation. It's a hard one to understand and accept, because you also understand that by accepting that role, that there's a lot of things that come along with that. Not everyone's gonna like you. Just by biological speaking, like, we want to be liked. For example, I was telling my brother, earlier, and just to kind of go not off sidebar, but just to wrap that idea up, there are a lot of people who have fought their entire lives to change a larger system that has continued to exploit and take advantage of human beings throughout our known history. There have been some guys, some characters, some men, women in there that have really done their best to provide us with the kind of opportunity so that we can be in a situation where we can actually make these kinds of systemic rapid changes that are in fact required in order to keep this whole sociological experiment going. And I think it's important. It's more important than ever to really understand that very concept, that while the world remains to be, one would argue, a very terrible place for billions of people, it's not just a stat, not just statistically speaking. These stats have real people and real lives and real problems alongside of that, numerical sort of annotation that it's given, when we need to discuss these larger ideas that we don't see and are outside of our purview. And so it's real important that we talk about them. So it's real important to recognize that change comes from within, and that can be a larger political ideology, that can be the idea of a successful nuclear family, which is, ironically enough, I feel like the ultimate sort of successful endeavor one could possibly experience. The family in and of itself is a real, conceptually speaking, doesn't have to be biological. It's a feeling. You feel me? It's definitely a feeling that one is given when people provide a loving environment, you know? I mean, that's just kind of a real cool thing about unconditional love, and the mature understanding that even unconditional love requires a kind of accountability to not just oneself but the other party, in that you owe each other stuff, forevermore. It's always a give and take, and it will ever and only be successful if it's treated in that way. I'm the oldest of five. There's a large age difference between myself and, for example, my youngest brother, the one that I spoke to earlier this evening. And that's because there was a sister in there that we all had who died just a few years after I was born, and just shortly after my parents were married. Understand that my mother was, I believe, just about to turn 17 when she gave birth to me, and my father was a year younger than that. They did not get married until I think like 1990, 1991. I was like 3 or 4 years old. This was right around the time my sister Megan passed away. And I had the awesome experience of holding my sister, and obviously, without going into too much detail, and kind of sensitive warning on like some like morbid kind of a stuff, but not really. But like, my sister had passed away, you feel me? Like, she, passed away during birth or whatever. And it's just, the idea that I still, was able to hold her and stuff is just, I've had some remarkable things happen to me in my life, and all of which, um, I guess, end up in some hospital room. I mean, the birth of my daughter, being able to see that, is just one of those things that you can't ever, describe or put a price on. It's intrinsic value for those of us that are able to experience these things, is far beyond anything money or any other feeling can provide. It's a one-off thing, and it's important that you're there for those moments and stuff. And so, I've had a real good experience with those things, even in the saddest of times, even in the current saddest of times. But it is what it is. And so, talking to my brother, and it's just sort of like, I don't know the guy that well, as it concerns, like, on a friend level, and we were talking about that. And I think it's interesting that we're both at a point in our lives where, we can have that kind of a relationship. And I just, have not always, because of that age difference, been, in physical proximation to my siblings. And that has never negated the fact that I, have always tried to provide them what I could when I could, and I feel like that's something. But it's just, growing up is interesting, and maintaining relationships and choosing to maintain relationships with your siblings, as opposed to staying in contact with your parents, and just sort of the social stigma attached to that, and all of the questions that come around with that kind of act in one's life. I get it, and it can be complicated. Just like larger political ideas and things that change the world is a little bit more complicated than just ones and twos. And as much as I sort of respect that real sort of straightforward logic with like the kind of ones and two concept, and the idea of being a determinist and all of these larger things, I just feel like not a lot of credit is given to just the unpredictability of being a human being, and just how sometimes we can do things that we just never knew possible. And I think at the core of all of who we are, we understand that really anything's possible. And it's kind of scary, honestly, to really understand that you can change the world, that you can be a good brother, that you can have a successful relationship ongoing throughout life with certain people, and unfortunately minus others, because of their reluctance to meet you halfway at the bargaining table. I just, again, have so much admiration for the complexity that life brings. And I'm a real happy guy that I'm able to share all of these things with you. And this time is up on this video, but it's been an interesting time for myself, for sure, to see my brothers and my sister grow up, and to have the kind of experiences I've had with my, not just my brothers and my sister, but the fact that I love them a lot. And as much as I told everybody recently that a woman said that I was emotionally unavailable. I mean, just to be clear, I also have emotions, and there's some things that I really care about, not just in the larger theoretical sense of me trying to get those things done, but in my personal life, I feel, I cry, I'm sad, I'm happy, all of these different things. And there are some people that are very close to me, just as I'm sure, and I would hope that all of the people that watch these videos have people that are close to them. And I feel like that's something that we can relate to, I feel like people watch the show. I feel like obviously not millions of people are tuning in yet, but I mean, this is just the beginning. I've said that from the very beginning, and it's all been a very pleasant and welcome sort of way to introduce myself to everybody on a larger platform, and dedicating myself to this in specific. I mean, to kind of give you some metric of standard of where I go in the future in 2025. Most recently, the most influential content creator here in Albuquerque, or in the state of New Mexico, is from Albuquerque, and the guy's got a little more than 300,000 subscribers across all platforms. And I'll tell you, that's nothing. This channel is going to be at a point where there will be a large amount of people talking about the things that we talk about here, and that's always been a part of the plan. And success in that way, as I just brought up, is just something that I think about, because I want to be better than that, honestly. And I know that I can be. And it's with no disrespect, to my fellow colleagues out there and stuff, but I'm doing something different here. And I'm trying to make that very clear to everybody. And I think that at some point, a larger part of the audience, especially the part of the audience that has been with me the longest, is really going to understand what all of this has been about, and where it leads, and ultimately, leading to real meaningful, impactful change, and at a cost of civility and diplomacy, and just an opportunity to be heard, and to actually have some rational debate, as it concerns a larger amount of the population benefiting from a world where, in theory, no one has to be hungry, no one has to be homeless. Crime can essentially be little to none. Violent crime can definitely be eradicated. I feel like we have a lot of potential, and I feel like until I say otherwise, I mean, as it concerns, again, my own perspective, I'll never stop fighting for this cause. And I think that's important to note, because it's just, as we move into the future, a big part of the message that I'm trying to convey to y'all, and that is that anything is possible. And we'll prove that, inevitably that's what we'll be doing in life. And I just look forward to the opportunity to continue to be in your life, and I thank you for your time, and I hope that you guys have a really good night, okay? Until next time, bye.